Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use OpenAI's API to do sentiment analysis. For this example, I have a subset of 100 Amazon reviews, which I got from a kaggle.com dataset. In this file, as you can see, there are only three columns: polarity, title of the reviews, and the text of the reviews. The polarity here pertains to the polarity of the review text. This was probably created by the person who uploaded the data to use this dataset as a training data for a classifier. So we will not use this column. Our task is to use the review text and the review title to figure out whether the review is positive, negative, or neutral, what emotions are present in these reviews, for example, happiness, sadness, fear, etc., and to what extent they are present on a scale of 0 to 5. We will also look for specific aspects of these products. For example, if the review is about smartphones, then is the reviewer talking about aspects such as battery life, screen quality, and the price of the product? Similarly, what is the sentiment associated with this sentiment, with these aspects? Finally, as you can see that there is no column for product category or the brand names. So again, can we extract this information from the reviews? Now, I must clarify that all this can also be done using non-AI related machine learning methods, particularly related to natural language processing, or NLP for short. However, I find that the accuracy of accuracy of these classification and aspect-based, sentiment analysis and all that is way better for AI compared to simple NLP. Let's dive into the Python code to understand how to do it. So in this Python code, I have already set up my environment and installed the required modules. And as you can see that I'm importing these modules here in the first code chunk. More importantly, we are going to use OpenAI for OpenAI's APIs. For that, we will need OpenAI library. You will also notice that I'm importing something called constants. Now this constants is simply a Python file. So it is a constant.py file, and it has my OpenAI API key. If you do not have the API key, I suggest you get that first. You will have to go to OpenAI's developer dashboard, and there you will have to provide your credit card or some other payment details, and with that you can get a API key. In constants.py file, there is literally one variable called as OpenAI underscore API underscore key, and my API key is assigned to this variable. I learned about this method on Stack Overflow, and I follow this method. I like this better to keep my key private. In the next chunk, I'm just reading that API key, and essentially my client now has that API key. Client, the OpenAI API client object now has the API key assigned to it. So later when we will contact the API to analyze our text, if this API key is not correct, we are going to get an error. So keep that in mind. So at this point, it is not going to verify whether your API key is valid or not. All right. As a next step, we are going to understand the function that is required to analyze the review. I must make something very clear here. I used Claude to help me with writing this code. So there are two aspects to it. There is a prompt that needed a lot of refinement. So I use Claude separately to write that part. So write the prompt, I had to do a few iterations, and there are a few things that I had figured out that do not work properly if you do not specify certain details in the prompt. So I had to, append the prompt with all this information additionally. Then there is of course the code just to reach or access the API, which is wrong if Claude give, and I will talk more about that. And finally, there in the third step, we are going to use again, I use Claude to basically write code to help me analyze or send my reviews to OpenAI, and then retrieve the output and basically convert this into a pandas data frame. So that code is all written by Claude with minimal input from me. So let's understand how this code works. So here we are defining a function called as analyze underscore review. This will take an input of title and text, and both of them are strings, so that's pretty straightforward. And here is a type hint. The output will be a dictionary, and it will have the key will be a string, and the value will be it can be any type, right? And this is just a type hint, by the way. So the reason why we need this so dictionary format is because I want all the output as JSON. Again, this is my personal preference. If you want it in some other format, please go for it. But from my experience, I found that JSON is the best format when it comes to getting this output from any API. Next, I'm writing the prompt, and notice that I'm using an F string here. So while writing this prompt, I will use curly braces wherever I'm going to bring in variables from my environment. So in this case, for instance, we say review title, we are passing on review title, and the actual title of the review will be, so basically this title enclosed in curly braces is essentially it is standing for the first review that will come in, right? First object that we are going to evaluate. Similarly, the review text, so this is again text wrapped in curly braces, a stand-in for the text that we are going to get from the CSV file then when we will read it. So that is how it is going to work out, right? So it is going to get evaluated. Now with this in mind, you will notice that now I have two curly braces in the next step. The reason for this is because I'm providing the JSON structure for the output, and the JSON also has a curly brace in it, right? The output. So F string is going to, if I just write that single curly brace, then F string is going to evaluate that curly brace. So I don't want that. I want literally a curly brace as a text input. That's it. So the easiest way you can escape that curly brace is simply writing two curly braces like this. So it will be reduced to one curly brace when F string evaluates this. So if you don't know this, the details, I suggest please, read the Python. You just go to Python website, the Python's own developer website, and their documentation has all these things, all these details. So here, how would the output JSON file will look like, right? How would it look like? So it will have first key sentiment, and it can take on any of these three values. So this is basically a string, right? Positive, negative, or neutral. Then we have second key emotions, which now is the value is a dictionary. And within that, you'll notice that I have now again happiness, which is the first key, and it can take on any value between 0 and 5, and so on and so forth, right? Then I decided to go with three aspects. So AI will try to figure out at the most three aspects, right? And this aspects will be also attached with their sentiment. So aspects and sentiment will be again a dictionary, right? And there will be three such dictionaries that we will output. Finally, AI will also try to figure out what is the product category, and then what is the brand name. And in most cases, the brand name is going to be missing By the way, even product category can be missing. So we want to make sure that it does not throw an error or it just makes up some product category. Instead of that, it returns an NA. Okay. Keep in mind that hallucination is a real problem. So not everything that it returns is going to be perfect, right? So you need to make sure that you go over this eyeball and document how many of them are accurate. All right, finally we provide the instructions, which basically are the same instructions just I just now mentioned, those instructions in writing. And again, you might say that why don't you write the instructions above? That's fine. I mean, if you want to do it, please go ahead and do it. I'm seriously not like, I didn't do any experiment to figure that out. I was just, this is the way I wrote it and it worked fine. So I did not change anything. Finally, I ended up with telling it that, hey, this is a requirement that you output only a valid JSON file. That's it, JSON format. I do not want any additional text or formatting because AI has a tendency to ramble. And what it might do is that it might add some additional information like how it arrived at specific JSON format, right? Or how it decided that the product category is that specific product category. And it might just tell you that as an additional text, which you don't want. So you avoid that by, again, you hope that it is going to listen to you. There is no guarantee, by the way. Okay. After that, so this is our main, like the prompt part of it, right? After that, the remaining code is pretty much, I would say, a standardized code. So you will have to attempt to contact the API and get the response from it, right? So that is where we are using try and accept here. So this is going to be the first chunk. And if you ask, at least in my experience, by the way, if you ask AI to write this part for you, it is going to give you something that is not going to work. And I have seen this for OpenAI, so ChatGPT, Claude, as well as Gemini, and all three of them most of the time failed to return correct method. So here, as of today, the correct method for this is client.responses.create. So this create method is the one that is, so this, by the way, you will have to figure out from the API documentation for the AI that you are using. So in my case, OpenAI's website has a documentation that gives examples of this specific method, the create method. Okay, so I'm using that here. And then we specify our model and then the input. And here there's a system prompt. In general, very simple, generic system prompt. You are an expert at analyzing product reviews. Always respond with valid JSON only. Again, we are hoping that it listens to you and follows with that, right? Temperature I'm keeping at just 0.1, hoping that it does not, try to be creative. Too much creative. I mean, it's not that it is not going to be creative, and hopefully I will be able to replicate the results in future. Finally, I'm also setting the maximum output tokens to 500. Again, in the hope that even if it decides to add some additional junk text, it will get truncated because I'm asking for only 500 tokens. Also keep in mind that the APIs they are expensive and they can be quite quite pricey, and if you just ignore these things, you won't realize it, but it will add dollars very quickly. In my case, because I have only 100 reviews, that's fine, but if you are talking about 1 million reviews and all that, you're talking about a significant amount of money to process this information. So that's why, again, I'm also using GPT-4o Mini because it was relatively cheaper. Okay, so if this is fine, works out, then you are going to get a response here, this object, and this response will have another object called as output text. That basically is going to be JSON, right? So you are just going to parse it and just use that. JSON loads. So this analysis is essentially now your JSON message. So that is what you're returning. Okay. So this function here, if everything works out, you have now analysis returned to you. Now there are going to be possible errors that you will get. So first error is that this JSON is not a valid JSON. So JSON parsing error shows up. And so in that case, you don't want to sort of ignore it, and you will return an object like this. Okay, with all this. Now this is again, I just, by the way, took it as given from Claude. I did not change this, but you are free to do anything you want. So maybe make it better if you want it. The other possibility is that and this is more likely, is that your API call returns errors. This might happen because your API key is incorrect, or maybe you do not have enough money in your account. Maybe you lost internet. Maybe their servers are down. All these problems can happen, and because of which you might get an error. And that's why, again, you want to make sure that you have some output returning to you instead of your code stopping any processing. All right. So with this, so as you can see, this is a very, most of the code is essentially the prompt here at this point. Okay. So once this part is done, then I basically, used something that was given to me from OpenAI, from Claude, and I did not make much changes here. And that's why you will see the code is extremely verbose. There's too many things over here, but it is essentially going to process the file that we are going to, upload here. So this process reviews file. So it just needs input file, and then it is also going to output this file. And that's it, that we have to just provide this information. And so it is going to read this. It is going to, go over that file row by row, take the title column and text column and pass on to OpenAI. And then it will take the result. It is going to just, append that, and now this analysis underscore results is the object that is going to just, it is creating that object for us. And between every API call, it is going to go to sleep for 0.5 seconds. Again, just trying to make sure that we are not creating it. This is not going to happen, but anyway, it's like, you're not breaching the rate limit. All right. So once this is done, once we have this analysis results all output, right? Output from the API. After this, we are just going to convert this into a pandas data frame. And that is the code over here. Again, a very standard, like a boilerplate type of code, not a complicated code. It's pretty straightforward if you read this. And that's it. That's the pandas data frame that we output. Okay. Now, again, you can see there is a bunch of messages you are going to print. And this is, as I said, I just copied and pasted it from Claude. I did not make any change here. All right. Finally, I ran this code, and guess what? It worked perfectly fine without any problem. And so the output here, output file, was this here. That is the name, right? Reviews _100 analyze.csv. This is the file I output. So let me go to that file and show that to you next. So this is the file we are talking about. And as you can see, this file is, it has first 3 columns, the same as our original file. Okay, polarity, title, and text. Polarity, title, and text. And then these are the new columns that we added. Okay, and it looks all perfectly fine, right? Nice, no ill-formed rows or no missing values or anything. That's pretty good. But let's take a look at a couple of reviews to understand whether it has done its job well. Before we do anything, by the way, just quickly take a look at this column, product and brand, because this information is not available for all the reviews. You can see that products are missing for a few of them. It is difficult to determine what the product was. Similarly, brand is missing for many of them, which I also noticed, by the way, when I went over those reviews. So that is not a surprising thing at all. but it has done a pretty good job of extracting product categories at least, which is good news. Um, let's take a look at each of these, title and text, and then the other columns. So first one says great CD. That's the title. The text says, and by the way, this review was actually pretty emotional. This person is actually super elated, and this is it feels like this person was in love with the singer, right? It reads like that, to be honest. So and the person also capitalizes certain words like Donald Trump. uh, you see that great voices, and then CD years and still love it, and right, vocals are just at stunning and all that. So now if you see this sentiment is positive, that's fine, right? So this polarity and sentiment are the same thing, by the way, right? So 2 was positive and 1 was negative in the original file, and that is what you will probably see. But original file did not have neutral, and that's why you'll see everything as 1 or 2. But in our case, we can go granular, and we have positive, negative, and neutral. So that's an improvement. uh, so first, clearly this review is extremely happy. This is what you say. Then there is some element of surprise. That's what AI says. I By the way, I can't determine exactly what told it that this part is surprising for this person. Is difficult to say that right from this. So but anyway, this is the score is only 1, so it not that very not high enough for us to worry about it. So happiness, right, looks like that is the one. The product is a CD. That's perfect. Of course, we can also read this. It says great CD, so that's good. Brand, it can't determine. We can't determine either, by the way. If you read the review, there is nothing. No, it doesn't tell you which CD that was. It just says lovely Pat. Pat is the person whose CD this is, but doesn't tell us what brand it is, right? Aspects, vocals, positive, lyrics, positive, overall enjoyment. Now, you have to consider this, right? Is overall enjoyment an aspect? If you believe it is not, then in that case, I suggest that we also in our prompt, we define what these aspects are. And overall enjoyment is not an aspect, if you ask me, because it's an overall enjoyment. It is so enjoyment itself is an aspect, and maybe it could be, but I think that when we talk about aspects, it is a lot more concrete, right? But to be honest, I mean, it's difficult for me to now define it. So whether enjoyment will be an aspect or not. But I think that the whole reason why we buy CDs is to enjoy it, and that's the main purpose, right? So it is the overall enjoyment is basically the overall evaluation of that CD is that it is positive. So it is not one single aspect of it, right? Enjoyment is a function of so many things. It is vocals, it is the lyrics, and maybe it is the guitar, or maybe it is the way with the person, like the timbre of the voice of the singer, and many things can play a role, and that leads to enjoyment. And maybe enjoyment itself is not an aspect. So you may have to be concrete when you're giving that prompt. So you will see that the next one was interesting because it has happiness, but also a little bit of surprise and disgust. And it came about because in the review, by the way, this is an interesting thing, is that this review is actually not for the game, but it is actually most likely it was a video game. But this person says one of the best game music soundtrack for a game I did not really play. So their entire review is for the soundtrack and not the game. So that's why it says the product is soundtrack, which is unlikely, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe this a CD was for it was a CD and it was a soundtrack, right? Possibly. And here I would say the negativity is coming from this point, right? My one complaint about this soundtrack is that they use guitar they use guitar fretting. They use guitar fretting effects in many of the songs, which I find distracting. But even if those were not included, I would still consider the collection worth it. Okay, so maybe that's why this disgust is coming, right? Or sadness, maybe, right? Sadness is 3 here. So maybe that is where the sadness is coming from. Music quality, positive. Emotional impact is positive, but guitar effects, negative. Right? That is doing a good job, right? So overall, you'll find these reviews they make sense. You will have to, by the way, check a couple of things, right? So what I found was that um, in some cases, this was particularly, I found this was not so much with the API, but when I actually use only the web interface, I found that a bunch of times it just came up with books as the product category, but the reality it was not. So it was hallucinating, right? So you just want to again make sure that that is the case. Um, so books are showing up quite a bit here in this data set, right? Which is not surprising, but um, just if you want to be sure, just go over it, and that's a good practice in anything that you're going to process with AI. Is to you want to verify that a little bit, and maybe even document it, that how many, like suppose you did it for like 20 products, 20 reviews, how many of them are correct, so you get some idea about the accuracy of your effort. And if you then want to improve it, you can improve the or revise the prompt. All right, so with that, I'm going to stop here. I will share this Python code on GitHub, and then add the GitHub link to the video description, so you will be able to download it. I will also upload those 100 reviews if you want to analyze them. All right, thank you for watching this video.